remarks, which is that when he says, how low a standard must there be, all they have to do is not commit another felony or commit a felony. As I understand the gentleman's legislation, and please correct me if I'm wrong because he certainly knows it better than I do, but it is a felony to come back to the country, again, without having committed any violent crime or any other offense. It becomes a felony under the legislation. So now you have a felony because you've re-entered, and at that point, you're eligible for the up to 20 years or even a life sentence. Am I understanding that correctly? There are people whose only offense could be re-entering without anything else who would be subject to the most serious punishment. And I'm happy to yield if you can just clarify that.
Well,
the gentleman yields. The gentleman from North Carolina is recognized.
The issue with your characterization, sir, is number one, someone who enters illegally must be convicted of illegally entering the country. Then they must be convicted of illegally re-entering a country to get a felony conviction. There is no compulsion to charge the most serious layers of this offense. There is prosecutorial discretion. Under this law, if someone is apprehended, they can be deported without any charging. And that's where the misconception and the mischaracterization is. And now if someone is convicted of illegal reentry and deported, and they come back, a prosecutor would have the discretion to charge the 10-year minimum. It's not compulsory, it is within the discretion. But yes, he would make the element.
All right, I'll reclaim my time.
Gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Yeah, but thank you for that clarification. I'm satisfied to believe, again, that there are people who could end up with the most severe penalties under the legislation who have done nothing other than re-enter the country, which is something we don't want them to do, which is why we want a bipartisan immigration bill to actually fasten down the border and move forward on this so we're not constantly dealing with this way. The bottom line problem with my friend's legislation, which is offered in all good faith, is that it's just continuing to pile criminal penalties on people re-entering the country without changing any of the incentives or inducements. It doesn't deal with any of the things pushing them out of countries that are marked by gang violence and authoritarianism, so on, nor is it dealing, as Mr. Correa points out, with the pull of all of the jobs here. So we need real immigration policy breakthroughs and not just piling on a bunch of additional criminal penalties that are not going to work, and if they did, would just end up costing the American taxpayers hundreds of millions or billions of dollars in holding people in our prison for offenses that currently they're being held for 6 months or for up to 2 years. So with that, we're going to urge people to vote no on the gentleman's legislation, and I'm happy to yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The gentleman from North Carolina is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I've heard a lot from the other side about costs, whether it be costs to law enforcement, costs to imprison, cost to society, but I want to talk about the cost of open border policies that is felt in this country. In the year 1990, roughly 5,000 Americans died because of illegal drug use. Since the year 2000, almost 1.5 million Americans have lost their life because of using illegal drugs. Now, of course, there is involvement locally and domestically in the drug trade, but just about all drugs, statistically all illegal drugs, come into the country illegally. That's just one category dealing with the cost of illegal immigration. Any criminal code should have 3 objectives. First, it should protect Americans. It should protect American children. It should protect American families, neighborhoods, businesses from the ill effects of crime. Second, it should punish illegal activity. When someone harms another American, there should be adequate and reciprocal punishment. It should be efficient, and it should work, again, to protect Americans. Thirdly, it should deter ongoing criminal conduct in that same vein, repeat criminal offenses, or anyone who would want to copy criminal conduct to enrich themselves. When you look at the scale of illegal immigration, when you look at the problems that are being inflicted upon this country, Across every metric, the criminal law is failing to protect Americans. This bill, again, it aims to target the committed criminals who are here illegally. There is no distinction under the current law for people who commit crimes when they are here illegally versus those who commit crimes who are citizens. That discrepancy enables hordes of illegal immigrants to come from around the world to harm Americans. Again, I repeat, Mr. Raskin, in good faith and with sound logic, he talked about robbery, he talked about property crimes, he talked about rape and murder. Some of these people have been convicted of rape, murder, property crimes after they have been deported. They return illegally and harm Americans. This bill aims to preempt the harm Americans feel by committed illegal immigrant criminals. Just this week, there was a release from the Department of Homeland Security, a 34-year-old gang member from Mexico. He had illegally entered the country 26 times. He has received convictions for burglary, tampering with government records, government witnesses, criminal enterprises, illegal re-entry, multiple times. When you look at cases like this that are so voluminous it's hard to summarize, again, the only conclusion, the law is insufficient as it is currently drafted. We are in Congress to make laws to protect Americans. When we have such gaping holes in our criminal justice law as it relates to illegal immigrant criminals, not dairy workers, not those who are not committing crimes, the conclusion is straightforward. We need to change the law. My colleagues on the other side of the aisle, candidly, are twisting themselves into circles to defend the policies of the status quo. They want more illegal immigrants. They do not want stricter enforcement. They are turning every opportunity to resist the changes that Republicans and this president are trying to implement. Again, as a federal prosecutor in my previous career, I saw how illegal, unchecked immigration harmed every corner of my state and the country. When you have an open flow of illegal immigration, crime flourishes. It is hard to quantify the cost. Again, with this bill, for any illegal immigrant to be under its effect, they must commit a felony and get convicted, or they must illegally re-enter, not enter, re-enter after deportation. That is not a standard too high. That is not detached from logic. Again, when you look at the goals of what all criminal laws should achieve, protecting Americans, punishing illegal activity, and to deter repeat offenses, this is a needed step to accompany the legitimate approach that the president has been implementing over the past few years. I urge my colleagues to vote in its favor. Thank you.
All time for debate has expired. Pursuant to House Resolution 682, the previous question is ordered on the bill as amended. The question is on engrossment and third reading of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Third reading.
A bill to amend the Immigration and Nationality Act to increase penalties for individuals who illegally enter and re-enter the United States after being removed and for other purposes.
The question is on passage of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The yeas have it. The bill is passed, and without objection, the ayes and the nays are requested. Those favoring a vote by the yeas and nays will rise. A sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, further proceedings on this question will be postponed. Proceedings will resume on questions previously postponed. Votes will be taken in the following order. Motion to instruct conferences on H.R. 3944 and passage of H.R. 3486. The first electronic vote will be conducted as a 15-minute vote pursuant to Clause 9 of Rule 20. Remaining electronic votes will be conducted as 5-minute votes. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, the unfinished business is the question on the motion to instruct on H.R. 3944, offered by the gentlewoman of Connecticut, Miss Lauro, on which the ayes and nays are ordered. The clerk will redesignate the motion.
Motion to instruct conferees on H.R. 3944, offered by Mr. Laurel of Connecticut.
The question is on the motion to instruct. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 15-minute vote.
On this vote, the motion is not adopted, with yeas being 211 and the nays being 213. The motion is not adopted. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, the unfinished business is the vote on passage of H.R. 3486, on which the yeas and nays are ordered. The clerk will report the title of the bill.
Union Calendar Number 163, H.R. 3486, a bill to amend the Immigration and Nationality Act to increase penalties for individuals who illegally enter and re-enter the United States after being removed and for other purposes.
The question is on passage of the bill. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 5-minute vote. On this vote, the yeas are 226 and the nays are 197. The bill is passed. Without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Florida seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I hereby remove myself as a co-sponsor of H.R. 4312.
The request is granted. For what purpose does the gentleman from Arkansas seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that when the House adjourns today, it adjourn to meet at noon on Monday next for morning hour debate and 2 p.m. for legislative business.
Without objection. We will now entertain requests for 1-minute speeches. For what purpose does the gentleman from Pennsylvania seek recognition? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today on the 24th anniversary of the September 11th terrorist attacks to remember the innocent lives we lost. At 8:46 a.m., American Airlines Flight 11 flew into Tower 1 of the World Trade Center. Not long after, Flight 175 struck Tower 2. While Americans around the country were grappling with the news, a third plane, Flight 77, crashed into the Pentagon. In southwest Pennsylvania, the fourth flight, United 93, was hijacked and made an abrupt turn towards Washington, D.C. But because of the brave passengers and crew members, it crashed into a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. In the days, weeks, months, and now more than 2 decades that followed September 11th, our country joined together to face the very evil that tried to take us down. And while today's world has grown no less dangerous and we continue to grapple with evil, Americans are resilient. May God continue to watch over our first responders, our men and women in uniform, and all those who keep us safe. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields. For what purpose does the gentleman from North Carolina seek recognition?
1 minute to revise and extend.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, as students have returned to school, I had the honor of visiting the Eastern North Carolina School of the Deaf in Wilson, North Carolina. There I was welcomed by cheerful students, incredible teachers, and dedicated administrators and staff. I stopped by classrooms and even the cafeteria to see students in action, even helped teach a math class. The Hornets remind us that education must ensure that every child has a chance to live the American dream. It involves creating the best learning environments possible that meet students where they are. We must keep working to build a brighter future for every child in every classroom across the nation. I love you. Go Hornets. I yield back.
The gentleman yields. For what purpose does the gentleman from Kentucky seek recognition?
To address the House for 1 minute and revise and extend.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm proud to have supported the 2026 National Defense Authorization Act. This bill is a generational investment in our national defense. House Republicans, alongside President Trump, are investing in our military industrial capabilities, securing all service members a well-deserved pay raise, and making meaningful strides to secure our southern border and so much more. As a graduate of West Point and the proud representative of Fort Knox, I'm excited by the commitment this bill makes to Army Reserve Aviation and the strategic partnerships it creates with local communities to inspire the next generation of warfighters by preserving local museums like the Patton Museum. Make no mistake, this NDAA restores peace through strength, rightly refocuses our military posture, and puts America first. I encourage all of my colleagues in congratulating on the passing of this historic investment in our national defense, and I yield back.
The gentleman yields. For what purpose does the gentleman from New York seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I seek unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute, to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, today I'd like to recognize Lauren Cullinan and Peyton Savarese, 11th graders at the Ursuline School in New Rochelle, who for 15 years have been friends and collaborated on multiple school projects together, including A Bear and a Book. A Bear and a Book was founded in the fall of 2023 as a way to promote youth literacy. Like many others, when Lauren and Peyton were little, they would line up their teddy bears and read them a story. If they did not have someone to read to, they could always count on reading to their bears. The Bear and a Book presentation begins with the girls reading an age-appropriate book to children with their own bear friends, Candy Bear and Sprinkles. At the end of the story, each child is given a bear and a book of their own to read at home. With this book project, they have reached 55 classrooms in both New York and nearby Connecticut, and over 1,500 books and bears have been distributed. I applaud Lauren and Peyton for wanting to help young children in our community and for their entrepreneurial spirit. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
The gentleman yields. The chair will receive a message.
Mr. Speaker, messages from the Senate.
Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Secretary.
I have been directed by the Senate to inform the House that the Senate has passed S-759, an act to provide for standardization, publication, and accessibility of data relating to public outdoor recreational use of federal waterways and for other purposes, in which the concurrence of the House is requested.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Illinois seek recognition?
I ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today truly heartbroken over the tragic loss of my friend and fellow Illinois native Charlie Kirk. Charlie was a devoted husband and father, a bold Christian who never backed down from speaking truth peacefully. Charlie inspired millions with his courage and convictions. Because of Charlie, countless young people love America, boldly stand for their faith, and proudly defend our freedoms on college campuses and beyond. His death was not an isolated tragedy. It is part of a disturbing trend in political violence in our country, encouraged by the radical left and amplified by a corrupt media that has gone from being fake to totally evil. As we grieve, let us honor Charlie's legacy by continuing the work he so faithfully championed, and let us lift up his wife and children in our prayers. Thank you, and I yield back.
The gentlewoman yields. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Nevada seek recognition?
I seek unanimous consent to address the chamber for 1 minute.
Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to congratulate the 2025 U.S. Little League champions, the Summerlin South Little League. After undefeated runs at District 4, Nevada, and the Mountain West tournaments, Summerlin South punched their ticket to the Little League World Series, making them the third consecutive Nevada team to qualify. In Williamsport, they went on an incredible 5-2 run against the best teams from across the country and around the world, including a win over Fairfield to claim the U.S. championships. Led by their coaches, a trio of volunteer dads, Tody D'Ambrosio, TJ Fexer, and Americo Miranda, this team showed the world how Nevada plays ball. I was so proud to join the community in downtown Summerlin to give these All-Stars the homecoming they deserve. Summerlin South, you made Nevada proud on the world stage, and I can't wait to see what's next for you incredible athletes. Thank you.
The gentlewoman yields. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from West Virginia seek recognition? Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize West Virginia Supreme Court Justice Tim Armstead. Tim was born to James and Myrtle Armstead on February 26, 1965, and passed away on Tuesday, August 26 of this year. His life was one of dedicated service to our state of West Virginia, beginning as an intern in the governor's office. After graduating from West Virginia College of Law, he rose to work as an executive assistant to the governor's chief of staff and served on the governor's cabinet for children and families. Tim's passion for public service led him to be elected to the West Virginia House of Delegates in 1998, later serve as the minority leader, and rise to become Speaker of the House in 2015. He was appointed to later elected to the Supreme Court of Appeals of West Virginia in 2018 and would retain his position until his passing. Tim's life was guided by his Christian faith and dedicated to our state and its people, especially children suffering from neglect and abuse. He worked tirelessly to defend those children on the Court of Appeals and worked to retain and recruit attorneys to provide services for these children's cases. West Virginia is a better place thanks to the life of Tim Armstead, and the lives that he touched will be missed from his positive influence. I was proud to call him a dear friend and cherish the special time we spent together. I send my sincerest condolences and love to Anna, Katie, Aaron, and Benedum and Ann.
The gentlewoman yields. For what purpose does the gentleman from Virginia seek recognition? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Today, I rise in honor of the brave civilians and first responders who answered the call 24 years ago on September 11th, and the service members that died in the ensuing wars that followed. On that morning, ordinary individuals displayed extraordinary courage, not only through their service, but also through their sacrifice. 24 years ago, I watched in horror as the events of September 11th unfolded. 9/11 changed my life and the entire country. Less than 30 days later, I was activated as a reserve soldier, training soldiers to deploy to Afghanistan to defend our nation abroad. I went on to continue my service in active duty, forever changed by 9/11. 2 decades later, my thoughts remain with the families of those who lost their lives that tragic day and the wars that came after 9/11. We will always honor and remember the mothers, fathers, children, first responders, and all those senselessly slain in that devastating attack on our nation. September 11th changed the course of history, but in our sorrow, we found unity. In crisis, we found resilience. We will never forget that terrible day 24 years ago. I yield back.
The gentleman yields. For what purpose does the gentleman from New Jersey seek recognition? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, on September 11th, 2001, our nation endured an unspeakable tragedy, and New Jersey carried a deep share of that loss. Thousands of our neighbors left home for work that morning and never returned. Today, 24 years later, we honor those we lost, the first responders, the everyday citizens who became heroes, and the families who continue to carry this grief. We also recognize the tens of thousands who still suffer from cancer and other illnesses caused by that day's attacks and its aftermath. Their sacrifice and their strength remind us of the very best of America, our resilience, our compassion, and our unity. We remember each and every one of them, and each generation will ensure that they are never forgotten. May God bless their memory, their families, and may God bless the United States of America. I yield back.
The gentleman yields. For what purpose does the gentleman from Rhode Island seek recognition? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, this week we're celebrating America's direct support professionals, the dedicated workers who support Rhode Islanders with disabilities. Workers like Amy from Woonsocket, who said, "The best part of being a DSP is that every day is never the same. I get to celebrate the victories and milestones of the people I support. It is so rewarding to see how proud they are of themselves." But workers like Amy, who do such great work, are at risk. Republican Medicaid cuts and Trump's big, ugly law pose a threat to direct support professionals and the Rhode Islanders with disabilities they serve. Medicaid funds 77% of the essential services, including in-home and community-based supports, group homes, and intermediate care facilities that serve the most vulnerable Rhode Islanders. During this Direct Support Professionals Week, my colleagues on the other side of the aisle need to step up and restore the Medicaid funding they cut that disproportionately impacts Americans with disabilities and the workers who support them. And to Amy and all those doing this hard work, keep it up, and know I have your back in Congress.
The gentleman yields. For what purpose does the gentleman from Pennsylvania seek recognition?
Speaker, I seek unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, on this solemn anniversary, we reaffirm our vow to never forget September 11th. That morning began like any other. I had just dropped my daughter off at school on a clear, beautiful day across the Northeast. Within hours, our lives were forever changed as we watched in horror as planes struck the Twin Towers, learned of the attack on the Pentagon, and witnessed the extraordinary heroism in Shanksville, where ordinary Americans made the ultimate sacrifice to prevent another attack. In the days that followed, I traveled to Ground Zero, delivering mobility equipment requested by the NYPD, not for the injured, but for those responders who had been on their feet for days. Yet even in that moment of national grief, I'll always remember the New York streets lined with Americans cheering for first responders and standing together in renewed patriotism. In President Lincoln's timeless words, we resolve that these dead shall have not died in vain, and this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom. And may our nation always endure, producing patriots like the late Charlie Kirk, whose legacy reminds us that America will thrive and never perish from the earth. I yield back.
The gentleman yields. For what purpose does the gentleman from California seek recognition?
Seek unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute. 1 minute, please revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to celebrate and honor the achievements of Glendora letter carrier John Bromstead. John recently retired after a 40-year career in the U.S. Postal Service. Throughout this time, he drove 1 million accident-free miles, delivering letters, packages, and smiles across our community. John was honored as a member of the National Safety Council Million Mile Club, and he received the Million Mile Award, a truly remarkable achievement. Too often, the stellar work of letter carriers like John go unnoticed, but they play an essential role in ensuring our society, commerce, and community functions effectively. John, thank you for all the years of connecting our community through mail and spreading cheer around our neighborhoods. Now it's time to put your feet up and enjoy your well-earned retirement. I yield back.
The gentleman yields. For what purpose does the gentleman from Indiana seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I rise to address the House and ask for unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's hard to put into words how I'm feeling. On one hand, I feel the heaviness and sadness that hundreds of thousands of students like my sons are feeling because they know that Charlie Kirk, an inspiring American, was assassinated for standing for his faith, exercising his First Amendment rights, and engaging in open and honest debate. On the other hand, I feel enraged because some Americans celebrated at the news of Charlie's murder. If that was you, shame on you. I am sick and tired of this evil. Today is 9/11, and instead of remembering the evil attack on our country that day 24 years ago, we're now talking about another tragedy fueled by the same kind of hate. It's the same hate that assassinated Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And like Dr. King, Charlie was shot because he passionately and courageously spoke truth and invoked generational change in our nation. They both dreamed of a better America for all, no matter their politics or skin color. Charlie loved his Savior, Jesus Christ, loved his family, loved his country, loved his fellow Americans. He believed that through honest conversation, the best ideas could win. Charlie's vision for America inspired millions. Evil has killed him as a human, but watch out. Thousands of Charlies are already ready to stand for their faith, raise their families, and face down evil that has raised its head again in our country. May our Lord comfort the Kirk family and use Charlie's legacy to heal our land. I yield back.
The gentleman yields. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Minnesota seek recognition?
For 1 minute, revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to denounce the Trump administration's reckless and illegal military escalation in the Caribbean. More than a week after the attack, we have not gotten any clarity whatsoever on the legal authority they relied on to conduct the strike. Let me be clear. There is no conceivable legal justification. It was not self-defense, and it is not authorized by Congress. That is why I am introducing a resolution to terminate hostilities against Venezuela and against the transnational criminal organizations that the administration has designated as terrorists this year. I would urge all of my colleagues, regardless of their party or ideology, to join me in this effort. All of us should agree that the separation of powers is crucial to our democracy and that Congress has to fight for its own power. I yield back.
The gentlewoman yields. For what purpose does the gentleman from Utah seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, today I rise to celebrate 175 years since the establishment of Pleasant Grove, Utah.
Established on September 13, 1850 by pioneers, Pleasant Grove is located in an idyllic location nestled at the base of the majestic snow-capped mountains of the Wasatch Front. Its rich history is highlighted by the iconic Strawberry Days celebration, which began in 1921 and remains the longest-running city celebration in Utah. Each year, families gather to celebrate the city's agricultural heritage with strawberries and cream, parades, concerts, and rodeos. Pleasant Grove also offers outstanding recreation and cultural treasures, from the scenic trails of Battle Creek Falls and the wooden castles at Discovery Park to the family traditions of Hee Haw Farms and the Krista McAuliffe Space Center. Though the city has grown, it continues to be a family-oriented town where residents can learn, explore, and thrive together. At the heart of Pleasant Grove is its tight-knit community, people dedicated to service, education, and preserving the city's rich history. I want to recognize the service of Mayor Guy Fugel and the members of the Pleasant Grove City Council, whose leadership reflects the values of this remarkable community. I'm proud to represent Pleasant Grove in Utah's 3rd District and look forward to celebrating this momentous achievement with them. Thank you, and I yield back.
The gentleman yields. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Oregon seek recognition? Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, September is National Suicide Prevention Month. That's why I rise today to highlight the urgent need to support the mental well-being of our rural communities. The suicide rates among farmers, ranchers, and agricultural managers stand at nearly 44 deaths per 100,000 people, which is significantly higher than the national average. Despite this crisis, my Republican colleagues recently passed their big, ugly bill, which guts Medicaid. Medicaid provides access to the care many in our rural communities need. Because of these cruel cuts, Oregonians will lose out on the life-saving mental and behavioral health care, and the mental health crisis will only get worse. As a founding member of the Bipartisan Rural Health Caucus, I know that our rural neighbors often travel long distances to access care. I have a bill, the Home-Based Telemental Health Care Act, that would expand access to remote mental health and substance use services in rural America, specifically for individuals working in the farming, fishing, and forestry industries. Mr. Speaker, it is time we come together to pass legislation that will address our nation's growing mental health crisis and provide farmers and people in rural communities the care they deserve. Thank you, and I yield back.
The gentlewoman yields. For what purpose does the gentleman from California seek recognition? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is the last opportunity to speak on the floor this week, and today's like a confluence of a lot of really horrific things in recent or longer history. We should not forget, very recently, the vicious taking of the life of Irina Zarutska, Ukrainian refugee who made it to this country and was victimized on a train in North Carolina by a 14-time released criminal. Let's not forget her. Today we mark the 24th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks on our country. We never should forget that, although it seems our society is doing that. That's what we're allowing to happen. Remember those 3,000 plus folks that died on this day. But I can't let this week go without also acknowledging Charlie Kirk, a modern-day civil rights leader, so to speak, who stood for truth, who stood for the people, even though he might have been arguing with them in a friendly way at these events. He wanted them to know the truth. He wanted to lead them from the darkness, from the deception of this modern-day society of people that are deceiving people in their really bad choices. And he was doing it with God's love, with Christ's love in doing that. He's been taken. I hope his image, his memory is made even stronger somehow, sometimes as God's will, with his loss. But today, we pray for his beautiful family, for the support they're going to need. Charlie Kirk, you are a leader. You are leading people from the darkness. God bless you. I yield back.
The gentleman yields. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from New York seek recognition? Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
I rise today with a heavy heart on the 24th anniversary of the 9/11 terrorist attacks, one of the darkest days in our nation's history. Nearly 3,000 Americans, mothers and fathers, sons and daughters, husbands and wives, friends and neighbors, all taken from us in an act of unspeakable evil on the morning of September 11th. In the years since, we have lost thousands more to fatal health conditions caused by the toxic aftermath of that day, as first responders and survivors who simply went to work or lived near the towers were stricken by cancers and respiratory illnesses that were tied to Ground Zero. Many Long Islanders who bravely rushed to the towers that day are still paying the price with their health and with their lives. It's time for Congress to come together and pass a permanent funding fix to the World Trade Center Health Program that will ensure that it is fully staffed and able to meet the needs of our 9/11 community. We will never forget the horror of that day, but we can choose to honor it on how we care for our brave first responders and our survivors. Mr. Speaker, I yield back.
The gentlewoman yields. For what purpose does the gentleman from Michigan seek recognition? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, last month I traveled across Michigan's 5th District to visit hardworking Michiganders who are excited about the benefits of the working family tax cut bill. I heard from a farmer in Horton who's relieved that it'll be easier to pass his family farm to the next generation because this historic legislation doubles the death tax exemption. I spoke to a small business owner in Monroe who will now be able to invest more in his operations and grow his family business due to the pro-growth policies. I talked to a waitress in Cassopolis who called this legislation life-changing because she will be able to pocket more of her hard-earned money thanks to no tax on tips and overtime. As I travel across my district, it's clear that we are delivering for hardworking Michiganders and ushering in a new era of prosperity. That's and I yield back.
The gentleman yields. From Virginia seek recognition.
I rise to address the House for up to 1 minute and extend revised remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, today on the 24th anniversary of 9/11, we remember the thousands of innocent people whose lives were lost, as well as the courage of service members and first responders who responded that day, many of whom called Virginia home. And the emotional and physical scars of those attacks persist today. We have a duty to care for those who are affected by the devastation. That includes the service members who returned to work at the Pentagon the next day and were exposed to asbestos and other toxins, causing lifelong negative health effects. And that's why I'm introducing the Susan E. Lucas 9/11 Service Member Fairness Act today. This legislation will close the gap in coverage and ensure that these service members receive the care and benefits they deserve. This bill is named after Susan Lucas, a constituent and a retired Air Force lieutenant colonel from Gainesville, who returned to work in the Pentagon the day after 9/11 and still suffers to this day chronic health issues as a result. These brave service members, like Susan, sacrifice so much to keep our country safe, and they deserve our support. Thank you, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields. For what purpose does the gentleman from Missouri seek recognition? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
I come from Missouri, and the people I represent have serious concerns. They're worried about paying for health care. They're worried about the cost of food and affordable housing, or raising families with some measure of security. What they are not worried about is a mid-decade power grab in Jefferson City. But that's exactly what's happening. This isn't about fair representation. It's about politicians trying to lock in their power by carving up Kansas City and silencing voices they do not want to hear. Voices like Congressman Cleaver, a man of integrity who has served this chamber, our state, and our country with dignity and distinction for decades. No one asked for this, not the stakeholders, not the business community, and most importantly, not the people of Missouri. Let's not mince words. This is cheating, it's cowardice, and if we allow it, we are telling Missourians that their voices don't matter. Our democracy doesn't belong to partisan map makers. It belongs to the people. I yield back.
Gentleman yields. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Ohio seek recognition? Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, I rise to honor May Chin and Mary Ann Friedman for their induction into the Ohio Department of Aging Senior Citizen Hall of Fame and for being named Ohio's 13th Congressional District's Champion of the Week. As a native of Hong Kong, May Chin developed profound empathy for immigrants after witnessing the struggles of Chinese refugees in her home country. After immigrating herself to the United States in 1995, May helped found Asia Services in Action, or also known as Asia Inc., an organization dedicated to serving the needs of immigrant communities and turn obstacles into opportunities. Today, with about 80 full-time staffers, Asia Inc. provides family and adult health services, legal services, small business assistance, and so much more to the over 58,000 people who are looking to build a life in Northeast Ohio communities. I'm also proud to recognize Mary Ann Friedman. Mary Ann lives her life mission based on the Hebrew phrase Tikkun Olam, repairing the world, and she chose and chooses to use her life and to her talents, and she founded the Adult Guardian Services. She worked to expand and transform this program in Summit County, and as executive director, Mary Ann worked with guardians and caregivers to ensure that the most vulnerable members of our communities are cared for and respected and not forgotten as they age. Mr. Speaker, both of these women dedicated their careers to serving the most underserved. Both demonstrate the incredible power of concerned citizens serving their communities, and I extend to them my sincere gratitude of appreciation and recognize that people of any age can continue to make meaningful contributions to their community. Mr. Speaker, I yield back.
The gentlewoman yields. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Wisconsin seek recognition? Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in agony about the severe flooding that recently struck southeastern Wisconsin, hitting my district and my constituents hard. On August 9th, a so-called 1,000-year flood dumped record rainfall across Wisconsin, bringing flooding and sewerage backup that caused millions of dollars in damage, left thousands without power, and forced many from their homes. Recent reports indicate that this flooding caused a loss of life. But I have no doubt that many more lives would have been lost were it not for the tireless work of our brave first responders. The fire department from Milwaukee, for example, responded to over 600 calls rescuing people from their cars who were trapped by the surging floodwaters. At Governor Tony Evers' request, FEMA teams have worked alongside state and county authorities to fully assess the damage wrought by this flooding. With that work largely done now, the governor has requested a major disaster declaration that would unlock the federal assistance for many households, businesses, and public assets. And we're still trying to put this all together and figuring out how to pay for this. And I urge our president to immediately approve Governor Evers' request for a federal disaster declaration, a request supported by the entire delegation on both sides of the aisle. This just shows us, Mr. Speaker, the just irreplaceable role of the federal government in helping to put victims' lives back together. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. And I yield back.
Gentlewoman yields. For what purpose does the gentleman from New Jersey seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you. 24 years ago today, our nation was changed forever. I remember that day as a high school student standing along the Hudson River, a cloud of smoke and destruction hanging over the New York skyline, the palpable fear and terror in the air, witnessing a stream of people covered in ashes trying to get home. It's impossible to forget. But what I remember most is how we came together as a country after that fateful day, how we bridged our divides and joined together as one nation, in grief and mourning, but also in resolve and patriotism. Today, 24 years later, we are once again reminded of how easily those divisions can take hold of us, how they can divide us if we allow them to. But we owe it to ourselves, and even more so to the bravest Americans who answered the call that day and laid down their lives, to recommit ourselves to civility and unity. We must never forget 9/11. We must never forget the victims, the survivors, and their families. And I believe with every fiber of my being that we can heal our nation and mend our wounds, and that we can truly be the United States of America, and out of many, one. That is the best way to honor their memory today and every day hereafter. Thank you so much. I yield back.
Gentleman yields. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Washington seek recognition?
I ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor Joel Kawahara, a 70-year-old commercial fisherman who represented the very best of our maritime community. In August, Joel was lost at sea while doing what he loved the most, fishing for salmon in the Pacific. Joel wasn't just a fisherman. He was the 2009 National Fisherman's Highliner of the Year, known up and down the West Coast for the exceptional quality of his catch. But what truly set Joel apart was his unwavering commitment to conservation. For over 30 years, he served on the Save Our Wild Salmon Coalition. He would frequently cut his own fishing trips short to attend policy meetings, and the last time I saw him, while walking through the boatyard in Port Townsend, he stopped working on the Carolee to talk to me about NOAA and how important it was to protect. Friends remember his infectious laugh at beach parties and his generous spirit. He put his family's 80-acre property in a conservation easement. He understood that caring for the land means caring for the fish, and caring for the fish means caring for future generations of fishermen. Joel showed us that a life well lived is one spent fighting for what you believe in, while lifting up your community along the way. We honor Joel's memory and his legacy of service to our waters and our way of life. I yield back.
Gentlewoman yields. For what purpose does the gentleman from Rhode Island seek recognition?
Consent to address the House for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today for the 39th time to call on the Trump administration to restore life-saving food aid for children around the world. We are grieving today. We are grieving the lives lost on September 11th, 2001. We are grieving the life of Charlie Kirk and others who have been victims of political violence and mass shootings. We don't always have the power in this chamber to save every life, but we do have the power to save many lives, including the lives of children suffering from starvation, lives that are valuable and that deserve a chance. The Trump administration cut off this program in January, and they have been promising to restore it, going so far as to issue RFPs and to make promises that the program will be restored, but they have not yet done it. All it takes is for them to take the simple action of restoring the Food for Peace program so that kids like this can have a chance. I yield back.
The gentleman yields. For what purpose does the gentleman from California seek recognition?
Consent to address the House for 1 minute and revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today in recognition of September being Suicide Prevention Month. More than 35 years ago, my father took his own life by firearm. Unfortunately, this kind of tragedy is too common in America. There were 1.4 million suicide attempts in 2019, making suicide one of the most pressing public health crises in America. In 2023, over 49,000 Americans died by suicide. Of those deaths, nearly 6 out of 10 involved a firearm. Firearms also account for just 5% of American suicide attempts, but unfortunately, firearms account for over 50% of the deaths. This points to a disturbing trend that those who attempt suicide by other means often regret their attempt and don't do it again and seek help. That option, unfortunately, is rarely available to those people like my dad who had a weapon available. Too many people don't seek help when they need it. Whether they are held back by fear, stigma, or lack of access, we need to do more as a society to remove all the barriers and encourage open and supportive communities. Please, if you're having issues around depression or suicidal thoughts, seek help and call 988. I yield back.
Gentleman yields. Under the Speaker's announced policy of January 3rd, 2025, the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Moran, is recognized for 60 minutes as the designee of the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor Bob Hallmark. After nearly 3 decades of reporting, storytelling, and shining a light on East Texas, Bob Hallmark is signing off from KLTV. I couldn't let this moment go without saying to him, thank you. Over the years, what has always stood out was the way he approached every story with fairness, professionalism, and genuine heart for our community. He had a way of making people feel seen, respected, and understood. Whether he was covering a serious issue or adding a little humor to the day, Bob was always thoughtful and brought his full self to the job. He never lost sight of the people behind the headlines. He knew every story mattered to someone, and he treated those stories with care. That's rare. And it's why so many trusted him, not just as a journalist, but as a friend and a neighbor. Bob, we will miss hearing Bob Hallmark, KLTV News, at the end of every story. But we're grateful for the many years that we did hear those words. Enjoy the well-earned next chapter of your life. Congratulations, Bob. Thank you for telling the story of East Texas so well for so long. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor Herb Bowie. The Junior Achievement of the Greater Tyler area announced Mr. Bowie will be their 2026 Business Hall of Fame laureate. At 95 years young, Mr. Bowie continues to set the bar for what leadership, service, and lasting impact mean. For decades, he has been a pillar of the Tyler business community in both professional success and his deep commitment to giving back to the community. This award is not just about his career, it's about his legacy, a legacy built on hard work, generosity, and unwavering belief in the next generation. As Mr. Bowie said himself, quote, "Junior achievement is standing at the top of the place to let those young people know what it is to be entrepreneurs, to be workers, business people, how to handle finances, how to be good community leaders," end quote. These values have been lived out by Mr. Bowie for decades. This year alone, Junior Achievement of Tyler will reach more than 8,300 students, inspiring young minds to dream bigger and to plan wiser. This mission aligns perfectly with the life and leadership of Herb Bowie. He's not just a role model, he's a real-life example of what happens when you lead with a heart of purpose. Thank you, Mr. Bowie, for your leadership, your vision, and the powerful example that you continue to set for all of us. Congratulations on this well-deserved honor. East Texas is better with you in the community. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor Roundup Day. This day celebrates the fair and rodeo bring about countless memories for East Texans. Throughout the fair time, we are able to come together in the community and enjoy games, rides, and incredible fair food. We must not lose sight of the true mission of the weekend, though, bringing together agricultural heritage, families, and the community. And this happens in so many locations nationwide. The weekend also centers around youth development and education. Since 1992, the fair has awarded over $2.1 million to East Texas youth in scholarship and premiums. In total, the East Texas Fair brings an estimated impact of $10 million to the Tyler and Smith County community. Simply remarkable. We receive visitors of all types, including local families, concert goers, exhibitors, vendors, contest participants, school groups, entertainers, workers, sponsors, and volunteers. Everyone who attends these events creates an exciting atmosphere where the community can thrive. I hope everyone this year enjoys another incredible year at the East Texas State Fair and Rodeo, and I can't wait for my next corn dog. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize and honor Bear Creek Smokehouse of Marshall, Texas, which has been named the Small Business Administration's Family-Owned Business of the Year for the Dallas-Fort Worth District. Since its founding in 1943, Bear Creek Smokehouse has stood as a true East Texas success story. For more than 80 years, the Schultz family has poured their time, energy, and faith into building not just a business, but a legacy. What began as a small family operation has grown into a nationally recognized name, while never losing its deep roots in our community. The success of Bear Creek Smokehouse is built on the values that never go out of style: hard work, integrity, and an unwavering commitment to excellence. Guided by the family's motto, food, faith, and family, this fourth-generation business continues to embody the very best of the American entrepreneurial spirit. Their products reflect quality, their service reflects care, and their impact on East Texas reflects generations of dedication. This recognition is not only a celebration of Bear Creek Smokehouse's accomplishments, but also a testament to the importance of family-owned businesses across America. They remind us that when families work together, they can build enterprises that nourish the body and the soul while strengthening the communities they serve. Congratulations to the entire staff at Bear Creek Smokehouse and to Robbie, Brenda, and Hunter Schultz on this well-deserved honor. I am confident that they will continue to inspire, serve, and succeed for generations to come. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor Gilmer Independent School District. We recently received some fantastic news from the Texas Education Agency. Gilmer Elementary School, Gilmer High School, Gilmer Intermediate School, and the Early Childhood Center in Gilmer received an A rating for the 2024-25 school year. The TEA A through F accountability system evaluates schools and districts based on a range of performance indicators, including students' achievements, academic growth, college and career readiness, and how effectively schools support their most at-risk students. An A rating means that Gilmer isn't just meeting the mark, they are exceeding expectations across the board. This kind of recognition sends a strong message. Great things are happening in our school systems in East Texas. This is a great morale boost heading into the new school year, not just for those inside the school walls, but across the community. I'm grateful for the strong leadership across Gilmer ISD, including the teachers, the faculty, staff, parents, and students. Together, they work tirelessly to ensure excellence in all of their programs. Gilmer ISD looks to their core principles in all that they do: excellence, achievement, character, and commitment. I look forward to seeing the incredible work that they do this year and the great successes that lie ahead. Go Buckeyes. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor Charlie Keno. As CEO of eTex, Charlie leads his team to great successes. Charlie is a leader whose work has truly changed lives across rural Texas. I'm proud to congratulate him on receiving the Neville Haynes Award, the highest honor from the Texas Telephone Association. For more than a decade, Charlie has led eTex with vision, integrity, and a deep commitment to connecting the unconnected. Under his leadership, eTex hasn't just expanded broadband, it has brought real opportunity to rural East Texas. This award encapsulates a career dedicated to service, advocacy, and the belief that every community, no matter how small or how remote, deserves access to the digital future. Charlie's impact goes far beyond technology. He has raised the standard for what it means to serve customers, neighbors, and friends. Charlie, congratulations on this well-deserved recognition, and thank you for providing that leadership that is rooted in community, and we know that because of your leadership, anything is possible. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor Texarkana College. Earlier this month, the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board released its 2024 accountability measures, and I'm proud to share that Texarkana College has earned the #1 ranking in the entire state of Texas for 3-year and 6-year student completion rates. This is among all 50 public college colleges in the entire state of Texas. Even more impressive, Texarkana College's 3-year completion rate is nearly double the state average. This is truly extraordinary. But these are more than numbers. This represents the lives that are changed and our future that is strengthened. When a student completes their education, it opens doors for themselves, for their children, for their generations to come. The effect of this success is felt throughout our workforce, our local economy, and our entire region. But this accomplishment did not happen by chance. It is the direct result of years of strategic efforts, innovation, and hard work by Dr. Jason Smith, Vice President Dr. Dixon Boyles, and every faculty member, support staff, and advisor at Texarkana College, as well as the Texarkana community. But they have not only done this once. Texarkana College has ranked number 1 3 times in the past decade, and in the top 5 9 times. This consistency speaks volumes about the leadership, the systems in place, and a heart behind the work being done. I want to extend my heartfelt congratulations to the entire Texarkana community and to Texarkana College. You are making a difference and building the right future for East Texas. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor the Deputy Chief, Aristo Rodriguez, Captain Adam Decker, Driver Phil Fry, and Firefighter Aaron Williams of the Mount Pleasant Fire Department. 4 outstanding members of the Mount Pleasant Fire Department were awarded the Life-Saving Medal. This is a distinction reserved for those whose actions directly result in saving lives. These brave men and women exemplify the highest ideals of public service. In moments of danger, when every second counts and hesitation can cost lives, they acted with clarity, courage, and incredible skill. Because of y'all, someone's child, spouse, friend, or loved one is alive today. We often speak about public safety in terms of equipment, training, or response times, and those things are certainly critical. But at the heart of it all is character. These 4 men embody the spirit of selfless service. They do not act courageously for recognition. They act because it is who they are. It's what they're called to do. Day in and day out, they act quietly and humbly, yet with steadiness and steadfastness. On behalf of a grateful city and community, and on behalf of a grateful state and nation, we thank you for your commitment, for your bravery, and for your service. Your extraordinary service has made a true difference in the community. To the 4 honorees, you are our protectors. You are our heroes. Congratulations on this incredible award, and Godspeed, and God's blessings, and God's protection for each of you moving forward. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor the 75th anniversary of St. John's Episcopal Church, located in Carthage, Texas. On July 29, 1950, a handful of Episcopalians met with Reverend John Fritz in the abandoned theater on the square. This marked the first Episcopal service in Carthage. This marked the birth of St. John's Episcopal Church in Carthage. Within a year, there were enough members to form a mission. With the approval of the Bishop of the Diocese of Texas, the Right Reverend Clinton Quinn. The congregation was originally meeting in a garage apartment on Sycamore Street, but that didn't last long. When the church was originally being built, a fire destroyed part of the building right before Christmas. But the community did not waver. It began meeting in people's homes and continued the work of Christ. And this is a true testament of the resilience of the Carthage community. The church has expanded throughout the years to include a parish hall and an education wing, but the congregation outshines the 4 walls they meet in. St. John's Episcopal Church has remained a pillar of the Carthage community for 75 years and has made a difference in countless lives during that time. As they look to the future, we trust God will continue to guide and strengthen this faithful congregation. We ask over the next 75 years, St. John's Episcopal Church be filled with greater service, unity, and spiritual growth in Carthage and beyond, just as they have seen over the past 75 years. Mr. Speaker, I rise today with a heavy heart to honor the life of Charlie Kirk. Charlie was a faithful servant, not only to the cause of liberty, but more importantly, to the kingdom of God. His voice was strong in the public square, but his true mission was always to direct people to Jesus Christ, our Savior, and our only hope through his truth. We also lift up his beloved wife, Erica, and their children. May the Lord wrap them in his arms of comfort and peace during this time of personal and national grief. Political violence has no place in America. We are all, first and foremost, children of God and citizens of one nation under him. Before we are Democrats or Republicans, we are Americans, neighbors called to love one another. We each have equal and eternal value in the sight of our Creator, and we should each treat each other with that equal and eternal value. Charlie treated others this way as he engaged in debate on tough topics in the public square. He did so in a civil, respectful, and dignified manner, just the way it's supposed to be done. And he did so from a heart of love, not one of hate. We should follow his example as we engage in our debates moving forward in this nation. We should look to how he treated others, how he saw others, and how he sought to preserve liberty and our republic. May Charlie's witness inspire us to walk humbly, to speak truth boldly, and to fix our eyes upon the eternal promises of God. And may the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ be with Erica, their family, and all who mourn their passing. Mr. Speaker, at this time, I'd like to yield as such time as he would like to consume the gentleman from Missouri, Mr. Onder.
Thank you, Congressman Moran. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Charlie Kirk died yesterday at age 31, his neck ripped open by an assassin's bullet. He is survived by his wife, Erica, and their 2 young children who will never see their dad at a T-ball game or a high school graduation or a wedding. Make no mistake about it, Charlie Kirk was assassinated. He was an incredibly effective force in American politics. He was beloved for his Socratic style of going to college campuses and gently, charitably asking questions and engaging in respectful dialogue with those whom he disagreed. Most of all, he was a very convincing advocate for love of God, family, and country, the hatred of which is a sacred creed of the left. They could not have it. They killed him. In April of this year, Charlie prophetically said on social media, assassination culture is spreading on the left. 48% of liberals say it would be at least somewhat justified to murder Elon Musk. 55% said the same thing about Donald Trump. The left is being whipped into a violent frenzy. Any setback, whether losing an election or losing a court case, justifies a maximally violent response. This is a natural outgrowth of the left-wing protest culture, tolerating violence and mayhem for years on end. The cowardice of local prosecutors and school officials have turned the left into a ticking time bomb. That was Charlie Kirk in April. Yesterday, a social media post of mine hit a nerve when I called Charlie a martyr. Without question, he was. The Athenians put Socrates to death for the simple crime of asking questions about culture and society and the meaning of life itself. Socrates was, in that sense, a martyr to the truth, and so was Charlie Kirk. But Charlie was also a martyr for Jesus Christ. A priest friend of mine sent me this short passage from St. Bede, referring to John the Baptist. There is no doubt that Blessed John suffered imprisonment and chains as a witness to our Redeemer, whose forerunner he was, and gave his life for him. His persecutor demanded not that John should deny Christ, but only that he should keep silent about the truth. Nevertheless, he died for Christ. Does Christ not say, I am the truth? Therefore, John shed his blood for the truth, Surely he died for Christ. Charlie also died as he was answering a question about the transgender cult that has gripped so much of our society and destroyed the life and health of so many of our young people. They couldn't stand for that, so they killed Charlie, martyr for the truth and for Christ. Well, what for us? Well, everything has changed. If we didn't know it already, there is no longer any middle ground. Some of the American left are undoubtedly well-meaning people, but their ideology is pure evil. They hate the good, the truth, and the beautiful, and embrace the evil, the false, and the ugly. And they literally will kill those with whom they disagree, just as their predecessor, leftist Marx and Stalin and Lenin and Pol Pot and Fidel Castro did. We must know that. And we must stand firm, and we must win this twilight struggle. They killed Charlie, but as Tertullian wrote in the 2nd century, when the church was very much persecuted, the blood of martyrs is the seed of the church. May God raise up thousands of Charlie Kirks to take his place. To my fellow warriors in this fight, hold your families tight, be safe, pray even for those who persecute you. Yes, most of all, pray. Charlie Kirk, martyr for the truth. Pray for us.
Mr. Speaker, I yield back.
Without objection, the chair appoints the following conferees on H.R. 3944.
Messrs. Cole, Adderholt, Carter of Texas, Harris of Maryland, Valadeo, Newhouse, Molinar, Rutherford, Klein, Mrs. Henson, Ms. Letlow, Mrs. Guest, Zinke, Mrs. Bice, Mr. Scott Franklin of Florida, LaLota, Strong, Ms. Malloy, Mr. Moore of West Virginia, Ms. DeLauro, Mr. Hoyer, Ms. Capter, Mr. Bishop, Ms. Wasserman Schultz, Mr. Cuellar, Ms. Pingree, Mrs. Quigley, Espaillat, Ms. Underwood, Mr. Levin, Mrs. Escobar, and Perez.
The chair announces the Speaker's appointment pursuant to House Resolution 605 and the order of the House of January 3rd, 2025, of the following members to the Select Subcommittee to investigate the remaining questions surrounding January 6, 2021.
Mr. Loudermilk, Chair. Mr. Griffith, Mr. Higgins of Louisiana, Mr. Nels, Ms. Hageman, Mr. Swalwell, Ms. Crockett, and Mr. Moskowitz.
Under the Speaker's announced policy of January 3rd, 2025, the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Green, is recognized for 60 minutes as the designee of the Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, still I rise. I rise, Mr. Speaker, as a liberated Democrat. I rise, Mr. Speaker, unbought, unbossed, unafraid. I rise, Mr. Speaker, as the only member of the House of Representatives to be removed from a joint session of Congress and thereafter to be censured. I have been censured, Mr. Speaker, but I have not been silenced. Censured, but not silenced. Mr. Speaker, I rise today in agreement with the President. This is indeed a dark day. Yesterday was a dark day. Dark days because of lives that have been lost. This day, the USA Today has published an article styled 24 years after 9/11, Alliances Fractured, referring to what happened on 9/11, the lives that were lost to terrorism. And then, Mr. Speaker, there's another article that I would call to your attention in the Washington Times. It is styled, Growing Left-Wing Violence, Blamed for Deadly Shooting. Mr. Speaker, I wish to address violence. I wish to address violence, and I wish to start by indicating that on yesterday, I published a tweet. And this tweet, Mr. Speaker, indicated in essence that this is the time for all persons of goodwill to take a stand against violence. And that persons should do this because Dr. King was right, and his words are right today. We must all learn to live together as brothers, he said, I would add, and sisters. We must all learn to live together as brothers and sisters, or we will perish together as fools. I did not know Mr. Kirk. I don't believe I've ever met him. I meet a lot of people, so I may have, but I don't believe that I have. But here's what I know about him. He was a human being. He was a child of the same creator that created me. He had every right to express his views. He had every right to differ with me as much as he wanted to, and anybody else. He had every right to be where he was and to speak on the issues of importance to him in ways that I might not agree with. But he had a right to do this. He had a right to life. He had a right to say these things in venues across the length and breadth of this country, and I would say across the globe. These were his rights. He had the right to be where he was and to do what he was doing. I don't know him as a person who has said things that I would always agree with. But I want his wife and his children to know that I'm saddened by his demise. I'm saddened by the fact that he was assassinated. I'm saddened by it. It is painful. I regret that it happened, and if I could have prevented it, I would have. I don't believe that we should have a country that somehow would have people lose their lives, be assassinated, and then people gloat and celebrate an assassination. So I ask today, what did Mr. Kirk and the victims of 9/11 and the persons who have died in churches while praying, persons who were killed as they were praying in various religious institutions, children who have been murdered in schools, what do they all have in common? The one thing that they all have in common, and there may be others, is that they were innocent people. Innocent people. Innocent people going about their business. None of them were breaking the law. So this is bigger than any one of us or any group of us. It's bigger than any person's religiosity. It's bigger than where you happen to be at a given time. This is about the right to life and the right to speak freely. It's about what the Constitution affords all of us in this country, and about the necessity for every one of us to protect these constitutional rights. This is about people who have been born and fortunate enough to have been born in the United States of America, or people who have come to the United States of America. People who just happen to be passing through. It's about the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and especially life, because without life you cannot have the liberty and the pursuit of happiness. All of these people have in common the fact that they were innocent and the fact that they have lost their lives, some to terrorism, persons who came to this country to impose and inflict terrorism upon people, and some from terrorists within the country. some from people who were just crazed, some from people who were persons that should not have had the opportunity to have the type of weaponry that they had. But they were all persons who were innocent, all persons who had this right to life that I stand for. And so today, I believe it appropriate that I first say a prayer. And then after the prayer, I'd like to make some comments about current circumstances. I don't ask everyone to pray with me. You pray with me if you desire. If you choose to do other things, then do those other things. But I pray this prayer for my country. Most gracious Creator, we know you by many names, but we also know that by any name you are the creator of all that was, is, and ever shall be. By any name, you created air, the breath of life. By any name, you created water, the elixir of life. By any name, you created the star that we call sun, the light and warmth of life. By any name, you created the terra firma that we call earth, the foundation and the home of life. And by any name, I beg that you would understand and pray that you would give me the courage to not only speak truth to power, to speak it in a righteous way, to have the courage to do all that I can to protect all of your creation. So I ask you to give me the strength as I speak today to talk about the circumstances that have created concerns that have to be addressed. I beg that you would give me this strength in your name, by whatever name I make this appeal. So now, friends, allow me to address CNN. Yes, I am a congressperson who believes that you have to speak truth not only to power, but also truth about power. So I want to address CNN. I understand that when you do this, you're not likely to get an invitation to be on their airwaves. I understand it. They have the power to mute by simply denying you access. But I just thank God for C-SPAN, unfiltered C-SPAN. C-SPAN. C-SPAN does not mute. C-SPAN does not conclude that because you are a person who will speak truth to power and about power, that you shouldn't have access to the airwaves. So I'm going to talk about C-SPAN now, because it was on C-SPAN this day that I heard one of their reporters indicate that we should, not in these exact words perhaps, but that we should tone down the language. Tone down the language. And indicated that we should probably be concerned about certain words. Two were mentioned. We should be concerned about saying fascism. Language that is incisive is the way it was put, perhaps not in these exact words, but incisive language. Language that would cause people to do ugly things. Incisive language. Fascism. And then this reporter mentioned another word, allegedly a word that would create what I would call some spark within a person that might drive a person to say something or do something that would be harmful. Incisive language. Well, that word was racism. Now, this reporter mentioned fascism and racism on CNN. Yes, I'm going to continue to demean CNN for what they've done. I know that this reporter meant well. By the way, I have respect for the reporter. But I know what's happening at CNN and how CNN has become a status quo news source. To maintain the status quo, CNN will do things that, quite frankly, don't allow us to make the change necessary to benefit all Americans. So this reporter mentioned these two words, fascism and racism, as incitive terms. Interesting to note, the reporter did not say anti-Semitism. By the way, I fight anti-Semitism every day of my life. I'm antithetical to it, and I'm going to fight it. I think we have to end anti-Semitism. I'm going to fight to end anti-Semitism. But on CNN, anti-Semitism is a word that you can use to address the anti-Semites and to deal with those persons who are perpetrating and perpetuating anti-Semitism. But you can't use racism on CNN. Racism is incitive. That's an incitive word. CNN would have us end anti-Semitism and allow us to address it in all of its forms. These are all forms of invidious discrimination. It's all right to address anti-Semitism, but not racism. If you're going to talk about racism, you have to use softer language because the word racism is incitive, according to CNN. Well, CNN, here's what you're doing. You're saying to the world, you want to end anti-Semitism, as I do, but you're saying you want to manage racism. You manage racism by not allowing it to be addressed and confronted to the same extent, CNN, as you would allow anti-Semitism to be addressed. And again, I am antithetical to, I am going to fight anti-Semitism, but I'm also going to fight racism. I'm not going to kneel. I'm not going to cower. I'm not going to back off. Racism has to be fought. It has to be dealt with because it too exists in this country. We cannot pretend that racism doesn't exist. If we're going to acknowledge invidious discrimination, we have to acknowledge it in all of its forms. And I would hope that CNN would get a better understanding of what it's doing by managing racism and doing what it can to eliminate anti-Semitism. It is my belief that we, people of goodwill, can fight both. He concluded that this was some left-wing person. And then they use plural language and say they, the left wing. If it was a left-wing person, I don't put any special boundaries around that person. Whoever it is ought to be punished to the fullest extent that the law allows. Doesn't matter what their party affiliation is. But what does matter is you shouldn't jump to conclusions. We don't have the empirical evidence of what happened. Last I heard, maybe it's been announced just recently. But I'm talking about the authorities. And for people to come to the floor of the House and make statements about how left-wing people have caused this to manifest itself, Mr. Kirk's demise, without any evidence of it. And for CNN to infer in some way that racism is a term that may have promoted what happened to this man. You're wrong. You're wrong to do it. Members of Congress who do it are wrong. And to blame the harm that was caused to some person who is said to be on the left, on the right, that's wrong. You can't blame people in a wholesale fashion for things that happen to some individual person. Left or right, you can't blame everyone. You can blame the person who did this. And if you want to talk about language that precipitates this kind of behavior, language that may in some way influence people, then you're going to have to start at the top. You're going to have to start at the top. You're going to have to start with a president of the United States who told police officers, you don't have to be nice when you're arresting people. President of the United States who told people at one of his rallies that they could assault someone who was there and not to worry about it. President of the United States who says ugly things about people. President of the United States who came right here and right at that podium where the speaker is, the podium just below the speaker, and called Democrats lunatics. It was the same night that I was evicted from the joint session of Congress, the only person ever to be evicted. President's right there at that podium. That president at the podium said that the Democrats were lunatics. Is that incisive language? Well, here's what's interesting, CNN, about it. You allow the president's language to be spoken, but you won't allow people to come on your station and talk about the racism that exists, and it does. And if we're going to talk about how these things are developed, speak in terms of individuals. The President of the United States of America, who has decided that the Department of Defense will be the Department of War now, taking us back, a quantum leap backwards in time to when it was previously the Department of Defense, but we had the good sense to understand that the Department of War, but we had the good sense to understand that it would be better to be a Department of Defense as opposed to be warmongers. Same president who says he wants the Nobel Peace Prize changes the Department of Defense to the Department of War. In Gaza, or to say, let's just property or take it and make it some sort of resort. Same president who went so far as to say to Mr. Netanyahu, yes, you can go on, you can do what you need to do. Not in those exact words, but that was the implication. And he wants a Nobel Peace Prize. I cannot believe that the Nobel Committee, the Nobel authorities, would ever give a person who has behaved as this president has, who wants a Department of War, who has sanctioned the collective punishment against the Palestinians, sanctioned the ethnic cleansing against the Palestinians, sanctioned ethnic cleansing, collective punishment. And I know you're with the word. Yes, I'm going to say it. This president has sanctioned the most heinous of crimes against humanity. And those are crimes against humanity that are being committed on the Palestinians. He has sanctioned the most heinous crimes against humanity, and he wants a Nobel Peace Prize. Mr. President, you are not deserving of the Nobel Peace Prize. And to those people who want to blame the left wing for things, if a left wing person has done something, I'm not opposed to that person being blamed. I will blame that person. But don't blame all people who happen to be on what you call the left wing for what's happening. Don't do that. And explain what the person has done. I came to this floor, I'm here in this house now, and I'm giving you explicit things. Tell me what the so-called left wing has done. You're speaking these broad, general terms about people without giving the explicit evidence of the thing that you claim that they've done. Speak with specificities. Have the courage to speak with specificities. You don't have the courage to speak with specificities. You just want to use a broad brush. Yes, I'm going to say it. The president doesn't deserve the Nobel Peace Prize because he has sanctioned genocide in Gaza. And the world sees it. And this Congress sees it. And not one resolution to condemn the genocide taking place in Gaza. Not one. And there won't be one. There won't be one. Not one. Few people are going to come to this floor and say it even exists. We're going to manage genocide in Gaza and condemn what's happening in Ukraine. How can you condemn what's happening in Ukraine and not condemn what's happening in Gaza? You can't do it. Not in a righteous way. Not in a righteous way. The Congress of the United States of America ought to be on record condemning what's happening to the Palestinians. And for those who would claim that they have no reason to be, that this is just something that we should allow the Israelis and the Palestinians to resolve, here's my retort. Your tax dollars are fueling the genocide that's taking place. If you wanted to do something about it, you wouldn't fund it. Those planes are our planes. Munitions, our munitions. Now someone is going to say that I am somehow creating the fervor, the incitive response that may take place because I speak the truth. Truth has in and of itself an absolute defense. Who can deny? Who will deny in good faith that what's happening in Gaza is something other than genocide? It is. And we have the blood of what's happening to those people, those innocent people, on our hands. And I started by talking about innocent people. They are among the innocents. We can't care more about some babies than other babies. We will allow the killing of Palestinian babies and maybe every now and then say something about how wrong this is. But we're not going to say that about other babies. We want to make sure that people understand that those babies had the right to life, that those babies should grow up and they should have an opportunity to succeed in the world. Palestinian babies and children haven't been to school in years now. What's going to happen to them? We've now allowed Mr. Netanyahu to go into Palestine, into Gaza, and go to Gaza City, and it's obvious that he is trying to destroy it. Yes, he's trying to destroy it. There will be no home.